Hello, I'm Paul Stevens, editor of short-term rentals, and welcome to this fourth webinar of our Rockstars series on Around the World in 60 Minutes. Before we kick off today's conversation, take a look at the special announcement on our awards for the global short-term rental industry, the Shorties Awards for 2021. Take it away, Justin. Shorties are back for Spring 2021, live from London. So the awards are due to take place on Thursday, the 22nd of April, 2021, and the entry period opening date will be announced in due course, along with all of the other details. You can visit theshorties.com for all of the latest Shorties news. In terms of webinar guidance, please keep your sound on mute and your camera off if you are not speaking. I'm being ably assisted by my colleagues Joe and Justin today. All of the details are in the chat, so please do post any questions you have there. A recording will also be sent round to everyone after the session. Here are the key discussion points for today. Thank you, Justin. We also have our new in-person Urban Living Light series. And you can see the upcoming schedule now on your screen, which is a precursor to our inaugural Urban Living Festival at Tobacco Dock in London on the 7th to the 8th of July 2021. Check out urbanlivingfestival.com for all of the latest news and details. So we have a stellar lineup of short-term rental industry professionals. Delighted to be joined by 5 people from all across the world today. So let me start by introducing our rock stars today, starting with Jeff from Vrbo.
Pleasure to be here. I am Jeff Hurst, the president and co-lead of marketing at Expedia, and also still the president of Vrbo. And I've been with Expedia Group in some form or fashion for almost 10 years, and I'm thrilled to be a part of the panel.
We're thrilled to have you too, Jeff. Thank you very much for agreeing to be part of our rock stars panel. Raj, take it away, please.
Thanks, Paul. My name is Raj Kamal. I'm the CEO of Oyo Vocation Homes, which is a vacation rental specialist business focused in Europe and the UK. Delighted to be here, Paul, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Raj. And next, TJ from TurnKey Vacation Rentals. Sorry, you're on mute, TJ.
Sorry, thanks for having me today, Paul. And president of TurnKey Vacation Rentals, based in Austin, Texas.
Thank you, TJ. And next, Paul, other Paul from Maison Privee.
Hi, Paul. So my name is Paul Mallee. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Maison Privee, along with Rami, who will introduce himself in a second. We're based in Dubai. We are in business since 2017, and we're a vacation rentals business focusing on high-end luxury end of the market. Great to be here.
And Rami, finally.
Everybody, my name is Rami Shamma. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Maison Privee. I'm here along with Paul Mallee, and I'm very pleased to be present here. Thanks, Paul.
Right? Okay. So for context, we have news from all of our speaker companies today, including Vrbo's growth and expansion into the UK. That's something we're going to be exploring very shortly. Raj's appointment as the CEO of Oyo Vocation Homes in June. Maison Privee being awarded the WTTC safety stamp, and TurnKey Vacation Rentals collaboration with Vrbo. So let's kick off today's conversation with a look at the sort of challenges that we've all faced during the pandemic, and also the solutions we've found to address them. So, Jeff, I'd like to kick off with you, and I'd like to kick off with something that I saw the CEO of Expedia Group, Peter Kern, say recently. He was saying that Vrbo had seen a markedly better performance in May than March and April, and it does seem that there has been a surge in booking with Vrbo, that the vacation rental brand has been flourishing in recent times. Is there anything you would attribute this to?
Yeah, in many ways, I think Vrbo's custom built for the moment in terms of our use case and what pandemic travel has evolved to kind of preference. And so Vrbo's a 25-year-old brand. As a reminder for those who may not know the history, we're a roll-up of multiple category leaders in different countries around the world. And we basically serve families for, vacation and long weekend use cases. And what that means is that our footprint typically indexes to, vacation destinations, lakes, rivers, mountains, beaches, but overwhelmingly, it's also whole homes, and that value proposition has been rewarded during the pandemic as more and more travelers are looking to go to more secluded destinations, trying to isolate and be with their, quarantine crew or their pod in a place that is a whole home, so that they can be safe, but also celebrate being together and take a break from the monotony that is life in COVID. And so I think we've benefited from that. We've certainly leaned into, being sure our brand is resonant at this moment and reaching as many use cases as possible around the world, and are pleased with the progress we've made.
Thank you. I think it's fair to say actually that there has also been a little bit of upheaval within Expedia, and of course all of the other areas as well. We saw you raised $3.2 billion in debt and equity in April, or Expedia Group. You phased out the home away brands towards Vrbo across the world. There's been the issue of cancellations and refunds kind of across the board, across the whole travel sector. So is there anything that you've learned, or is there anything that you would now say that you would perhaps approach things differently in hindsight?
I'm focused enough on the present and future to have not spent a lot of time, second guessing or thinking about the decisions made, but I'm proud of the tact we chose. We overwhelmingly chose a balanced approach in terms of cancellations, refunds, and relying on our property manager partners to do what's in the best interest of travelers and their businesses. And I think that was a sound approach, and, bore a lot of trust for us in the market. When you look at Expedia Group in the round, it's not as though there's something unique to Expedia Group in this moment. Like, it is a very tough time for travel and tourism. I think we were, fortunate and glad to have raised capital early so that we could lean into what we frequently call "don't waste a crisis," and be in a position to expedite things that we had planned on doing, like deprecating the HomeAway brand in the US or transitioning it in the UK and Netherlands, so that we can build a stronger business over the long haul. And we're seeing a lot of new customers trying Vrbo for the first time, and we just want to be sure they have a great experience with us and with the category, so that we can really grow what we think is a phenomenal value proposition.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Raj, we turn to you now, because I wanted to ask basically, how difficult has it been for you moving from being appointed the COO in January to now being appointed CEO of Oyo Vocation Homes in June? And how difficult, or how easy has it been to instill your vision across the company?
So Paul, I may be new, but our homes and our businesses have been around for a long time. Just to recap our history, we have 4 major brands in Europe. Belvilla, which is our flagship brand across most of the continent, has been around since the 1980s, so for nearly 40 years. Dan Center, which is a very well-known brand in Scandinavia, has been around for nearly 60 years. We have a very big business in the German-speaking region under a brand called Traum für den Wohnungen, which has been around for 20 years. And just recently, we acquired the vacation rental business of TUI Tours and Operators, which is called TUI Ferienhaus. So I think I have had enough institutional wisdom and very competent people to have helped me through this process and the crisis. It is fair to say that a crisis of this kind is like, once in a lifetime event for any industry. This is the kind of crisis that would have impacted the financial services sector in the previous crisis. It's the same for us in hospitality and leisure this time. But I think, this is a people's business, and I've had some very competent people and some significant institutional knowledge and awareness through this journey.
It's interesting because I was reading something actually from the CEO of Oyo this morning, and it was quite interesting. And it was saying about how one of the challenges had been where the revenues had fallen, I think at one point of up to 70% across the board. So, and this is probably something that we're seeing right across the travel sector. So having launched only last year, the vacation rental segment, how have you been able to prioritize profitability, sustainability, etc. in this time despite those challenges?
I think, Paul, as you may be aware, the crisis actually did hit vacation rental businesses like almost every other part of travel and hospitality. But equally, vacation rental businesses actually were the first to come back and came back very, very strongly. In the first wave of the crisis, we did have some very significant challenges, especially, with the outbreak in March and April. But as things began to improve, most of the summer bookings came back. And there was actually a very strong perception that the vacation rental businesses were, safe. They were your own private bubble away from your home. This was a work from anywhere kind of a construct. About 80–90% of our guests actually drive down to our vacation rental homes, to our vacation homes. And therefore, this actually led to a situation where we actually got back demand pretty quickly. And through most of summer, July, August, September, we've actually had same-store business, which actually has done better than last year. So we were up almost 15% same-store revenues for July and August, and more than 30% for September. Now, obviously, with the second wave, things are looking different. But I think on the vacation rental business, the experience has been, a very significant impact as bookings came down and as cancellations increased with major shutdowns, not only of borders, but of countries and curfew-like situations. But then the pickup of the business was very, very strong. So in that sense, it's been probably an experience where, we've been fortunate enough to be in that part of travel and hospitality, or leisure and hospitality, which actually came back strongest from the crisis. We still have to see, the jury's out on the second wave, but I would love to believe that some of these trends will hold out even in the second wave.
Thank you very much, Raj. We turn next to Paul from Maison Privee. I thought it was quite interesting, actually, how last year, I believe, you signed a $100 million villa portfolio on the Palm Jumeirah. And I was wondering, how has Maison Privee been able to sort of maintain its agility when it's come to pivoting or focusing more on extended stays? I think that was something we discussed before.
Yeah, we've seen a real shift in the market on the back of the pandemic, of course, and there was a necessity to try and find a way to respond to that appropriately and deal with it. We saw the rise in demand for extended stays very, very quickly, where people were feeling a little bit more uncertain about their job role. Maybe they were unsure about where they were going to, how long they were going to stay in country. In our case, in Dubai, they sought, it breaks away from the norm for an extended period rather than for a couple of nights. They look to stay for a few weeks, or in many cases, a few months. You had, of course, people who were tied in country because of restrictions in other home countries potentially. So all of these things kind of came together, and it really helped us to figure out very quickly that we could pivot our focus away from the heavy reliance on inbound tourism towards addressing the local market need for extended stays, both in our kind of city product, let's say in our apartments, but also in our villas. And the villas in particular have been hugely in demand. I mean, if we had a $500 million portfolio of villas, we would have them full. I mean, it is that strong, literally that strong. And we don't see that falling away anytime soon. And I think, as Jeff alluded to, having the model, pointing in the direction of the demand is what it's all about. Basically, we are there serving the market need for the natural seclusion of vacation rentals, giving people that space, that sense of security and privacy in an environment that they fully control, along with the private pool and the private beach and all of those nice things that we can provide them. And I think that all of this is kind of bringing us to a place where people will continue to actively seek out this type of extended stay or staycation. And I think that the demand is going to be there for a long time.
And I believe Maison Privee is also the first vacation rental buy to have been awarded the WTTC safe stamp that we talked about earlier in the context. So what have been the challenges with adopting these extra health and safety protocols, do you think, in this time? Whether that's you or Rami who wants to come in on that?
Well, I can take that maybe if I'm just to finish off on the topic. But the safe stamp was a very important thing for us to very, very quickly get onto. And, seeing the WTTC take a particular stand on that, I thought was a great initiative on their part. It's all about consumer confidence, guest confidence. It's all about that feeling of security, which is what we wanted to get across to our guests, that we're absolutely 100% aligned with. So, we looked through what was required to satisfy the Safe Stamp program. We were already in compliance, but, we made sure that we doubled down on everything to carry across that message to all of our guests, that when they come and stay in one of our units, that they are, in an environment where they are, absolutely safe and secure. And I think that giving that clarity to guests is something that, really helps ensure that you get that continued, customer drive, etc. And I do think, as I said, having the WTTC deliver, I suppose, a program that anybody could look to and adopt, I think for our industry, is a very, very strong, move on their part to deal with the situation that we're in.
And TJ, as an Austin-based property management company, which raised $48 million last July, it's, so much has happened since then. But how difficult has it been since March to address, cancellations, people having to change bookings, and also invest in making your properties COVID safe, a bit like, just to follow on from that last point?
Sure. We're Austin based, but we operate in 80 markets around the US. We're a property manager. We provide the actual hospitality to guests when they're booking and in the home, and then we maintain the homes. So a lot of physical aspects of our hospitality delivery. And we have used technology since we were founded 8 years ago to try to provide a higher level of hospitality at lower cost. So when COVID hit, bookings stopped. we were inundated with cancellations, and we felt, frankly, more like a cancellations business than a bookings business, unfortunately, for a long time. And when we were allowed to reopen in markets, at least the approach in the US was that every city, county, and locale could set their own rules about reopening when they felt like it, with different restrictions. And this was very complex to navigate. And so that was a big challenge. We were extremely proud to have kept our entire team intact, which are 460 employees around the US in these markets. And we really leveraged our technology infrastructure to release new solutions that would help us comply with local regulations and enhance cleaning standards and other aspects of the business.
And on that basis, because I know TurnKey operates in some, at least on your website, you're saying how you market it as you operate in prime US leisure destinations as well. So I wondered, perhaps, how are you seeing guest expectations shift? Are people still expecting that the qualities of a hotel alongside that affordability, would you say?
I would say all of that remained true, and quality was a big deal. We saw our call volumes jump to about 10 times our normal levels. Guests that were interested in booking wanted to talk to us more, and they wanted to talk longer. And so that really was a big impact on that interaction. They wanted more answers and understanding of what they were going to be booking. And all this gave rise to needs for new solutions for us. We used our existing tech to do some new things, like create cleaning checklists that were more detailed, that we used photo validation of our housekeeping app on the COVID fighting products that the cleaner was actually using for that clean. So we get human eyes to validate those products. We really were just trying to serve those guests that really wanted that safety, security, privacy when they returned to travel. And then we also participated in first responder programs, right after the collapse of the bookings, by making our homes available for first responders, such as surgeons and other medical workers that needed a place to, sometimes in the US, they were moving around the country to new locations in which to do their work, and they needed that relief. So we worked with our partners and their programs to offer homes, and had some very interesting and compelling personal stories out of that.
Thank you, TJ. And Jeff, we know just from reading the Vrbo trend reports how you're seeing these private accommodations, seeing these spikes in bookings. I think you also mentioned how at the forefront of the market recovery, we're going to see whole homes in rural, non-urban areas leading that recovery. So seeing as Vrbo is sort of now being seen as one of these contributors towards these booking trends, what have you gleaned about customer behavior in this time? What do you think has changed?
Yeah, there's a handful of traveler trends that have changed. I think, first and foremost, there are fewer flights. And so there's certainly a increased drive-to occasion in particular. And the definition of drive-to varies widely depending on where you are in the world. TJ and I are in Austin, and people will routinely drive 6 hours for a long weekend. But in most parts of the world, I'd say it's more like, a 2 to 3 hour drive. And so there's an emphasis on drive-to. I'd say the second thing is historically, the length of stay is a bit more of a bell curve, and now it's getting peaks on the end. There's a lot more happening in the 2 to 3 day window as people are, what I'd say on short notice, trying to get away for a long weekend, take a break from their quarantine house, explore some place that's nearby. And then there's a lot of dreaming, people who are planning their, further out summer vacation, or, now past coming up on a winter vacation, to where they want to have something on the books. They want it to be refundable, but they want to be in a position to where they have something to look forward to that is that next break. And so that's probably the second trend. And then I think the third, in terms of just behavior, is there are so many new people trying the category that there is a lot more question and answer around cleanliness, cancellation, and how renting a home works. What are the right expectations? And we're certainly well built to facilitate those conversations to be sure people have the right expectations when they arrive. And we're confident so far that the people who are new to the category are still having a great experience.
I've seen some comments this week about how some people are actually predicting that the private vacation rental space may even overtake hotels in 2020. Is that something you think, a trend that could emerge?
Sorry, the question was in 2020?
2021. Are there, do you believe that, something I've seen is that some people believe that private vacation rentals may even overtake hotels. Is that something you could foresee?
Yeah, it's a trend that I'm probably not, we're well positioned either way as Expedia Group. To me, the use cases that are popping up right now, a lot of people with their, core family, small group of friends going to a home isn't a substitute for, going to Vegas or Manhattan or London, when the pandemic is over. And so if it does happen, I think it will be, much more because of the way that the virus response has evolved, much more so than a permanent change in behavior. I think where there's permanence in the moment is that the category has always struggled essentially with awareness and trial. And there's a lot more trial right now to where in future occasions, people will consider homes to a larger extent than they would have in the past. And so I think you'll see more people explore this inventory type, accommodation type around the world. But I don't think we're in a moment where someone who's taken 2 trips to Vegas every year for their whole life is going to decide that, heretofore forever, they want to go to the Catskills in New York or, only to the Florida Panhandle. They're just different use cases, different occasions.
We've had a question in from our CEO, Piers. I'm going to direct this actually to Paul. So Piers says, we're seeing property managers expand into managing service departments and hotels and vice versa in some instances. Do you see this growing as the market consolidates?
I think it reflects a general interest in the traditional hotel sector to look at the growth in vacation rentals. And I think that it's become, alarmingly apparent to a lot of hotel operators that the vacation rental sector is both responding faster and recovering quicker than unfortunately many in the traditional hotel sector are. So I think inevitably there's going to be a rise in interest. And also, I mean, the reality is that the operational complexities around managing units in a same building are very similar for a service department as it would be for a vacation rental operator where you are operating within a building. However, when you go outside of that and you talk about standalone units that are geographically dispersed, in many cases, within certain platforms, the properties will not be dedicated. In Maison Privee's case, all of our properties are entirely dedicated to vacation rentals. However, that's not always the case. And those operational complexities of dealing with somebody's house when they're away for a couple of weeks or they're away for a weekend are very, very different. So I think it'll depend on what structure the vacation rentals themselves that are available for big operators to take on takes. So they will be interested in multiple units in single buildings. They may not be so interested in standalone units that are isolated and logistically dispersed.
Rami, I mean, your fellow co-founder has talked about the service department side now and extended stays, but I'm interested what you think. What do you think might actually be the positive effects on customer behaviour that we've seen from this pandemic?
Sure, Paul. So I think, to be honest with you, what has been happening has been very positive on the holiday home sector, because the requirement of traveler and guests now has changed. So you have a lot of guests now who are looking for more space. They travel for longer periods. They want to be together as a family or as close friends in the same place. and they don't want to mingle with people that they don't know or with strangers. And I think all of these factors are more in factor of the holiday home as opposed to hotels, because in this case, I mean, you can have a larger space, you can be together with a family if you book a villa, for example, or a penthouse. When you stay for longer time, you need to use, for example, the dishwasher, you need to wash you need to dine at home. So you need to do a lot of these things that would not be provided by an hotel. At the same time, you wanna only hang out together as a group of people who know each other. And we felt that especially the villa product that we had was very favorable to guests during this period. And there was a huge demand and surge in demand for this, either from people staying in Dubai who are looking for staycation, or from people actually coming to Dubai to escape from second wave or to escape from other countries. And for them, they needed an extended stay in a place where they can stay for a long period and feel that they are safe. And definitely these are a lot of favorable, let's say, conditions or factors toward the holiday home sector. And I agree that in the future, the situation might change, but at least people would have experienced the holiday home, or people who before were only advocates of hotels, now they had the chance to experience the holiday home sector or staying in a home, and maybe their behavior will shift permanently.
Fantastic. That actually leads quite nicely on to Raj, because you've touched on it already, Raj, but something we've seen from our research is that there was a 137% growth in bookings with your Danish brand Dan Center. Villa was up by 56% bookings, I think, at its highest rate. Do you think this is going to see a shift to more local, recognizable brands in the holiday home space?
Paul, I think, I mean, I'll build off what some of the panelists are also saying. I think there has been a very significant mainstreaming of the vacation rental space that has happened as we've come out of the pandemic, or we are, trying to come out of the pandemic. It's difficult to say if we have come out. I think that is very visible in the way, things have shaped up. There are changes in the way the sector is evolving. I think what Jeff said, we're seeing similar trends in Europe, where the business has become more local and nearby. So you're traveling, you're driving in over there. It's become more last minute. It's it's a business where at some point in time we used to see very forward bookings. Now we've seen short-term bookings actually grow 100%. Every month for the last few months. People are looking for more flexibility in their booking terms and conditions. So there are quite significant changes that one is witnessing in customer behavior. And one of the things that we feel we are hearing loud and clear that reflects in a number of customer surveys that we have been doing as we have tried to battle our way through the crisis is also, a renewed focus on looking at brands that they can trust, whether they are big global brands or deep local brands. And, that is in some ways, being used as a reason to believe in, this concept of a bubble away from your home, where there is, cleaning guidelines which are being enforced. You'd be amazed. We did a survey where 90% of our guests said that cleanliness is the number one important thing that they're looking for in vacation homes. I mean, these are homes which are out there. There's nobody, the only touch typically is to collect your key, which also, in today's times is being enabled by smart locks, and yet cleanliness was such an important thing. So, brands that can therefore give a sense of comfort and confidence on some basic minimum standards and cleaning guidelines that are being followed is becoming important. And also, in some ways guaranteeing or at least providing a sense of assurance of the in-stay experience. And I think that's what we are seeing. That's what we are hearing loud and clear from our guests.
Excellent. And you've already mentioned, I know, the acquisition of TUI holiday homes. We mentioned it in our context before. I'd be interested to know kind of where does it's a fairly nascent brand, if you can call it a year and a half nascent. Where does Oyo's Vocation Homes segment fit into overall Oyo's overall strategy, being based in India?
Yeah, so Oyo Vocation Homes as a corporate entity is new, but as I said earlier, our brands have been around for 40 to 50 years in different parts of Europe. So we are very deep European. I think Vocation Homes is a very important part of our overall strategy and the way we look at things. Our mission is to provide quality living spaces to people across the world. And within that, as the mainstreaming of vacation rentals happen, we feel this is a very important pillar of our overall strategy and growth going forward. And the acquisition of TUI House, which is the business that you're referring to, is a step in that direction.
Fantastic. Thank you, Raj. I wanted to move on to kind of the opportunities for expansion and growth within the sector. So I'll turn to Maison Privee with this one, but how do you think we can actually show the uniqueness of the vacation rental segment? And I'll try and link this to a question that Sandra has had with what has been your experiences with bookings for summer 2021 already. How are the bookings? Have the cancellation policy for 2021 had to change within that time as well? I don't know who wants to come in on that, Paul.
Yeah, I think that time will tell. There's a little bit of that, of course. I think it's very early days yet for us in terms of looking at 2021 in terms of this market here in Dubai. It tends to be a very last minute market. We don't get enormous forward booking into the calendar, certainly not that far out. So I think we'll have to see how things develop. Obviously, there is potential for a lot of things to change between now and the summer of next year, particularly around testing procedures and whether or not there is a vaccine, of course. But I think in general terms, that there is, in our view of the world, there's enormous scope for growth in our segment of the overall hospitality market. We're very bullish about it. We're very confident in our ability to adapt and to develop to what comes. We're certainly looking at a number of other markets. Dubai, yes, is our home market, and this is where we first established. But we're looking at a number of other markets, and it's all about finding the right product fit in that market. And that's the challenge, is to identify the right properties at the right level of scale in order to make it worthwhile. And that's something that we're spending quite a lot of time on. Rami, have you anything to add?
Yeah, sure. I would like to add that actually we are not only reliant on the tourism market as well, because the beauty of having homes is that you can rely on the extended stays. So you can be also kind of real estate player that's providing services as well. So a lot of our guests and a lot of our clients today are people who want the flexibility. They don't want to stay in, they don't want to commit anymore, for example, let's say to annual leases, especially in a city like Dubai that is, it's a metropolitan city, but people are on the move. People come here, then they move. So for a lot of people, just having the flexibility to be in an apartment for a couple of months where there is no commitment, where it's furnished and serviced, is in itself a successful business model and could be resilient during this period. So we are actually bullish on 2020, whether the pandemic is still there or we are back to normal.
Thank you very much, Rami. Because in Vrbo, we've seen now the launch in the UK. So I was wondering, what do you see as the next step for Vrbo? Are you focusing on more consolidation, expansion? What's that key word for you?
I think the key word would be focus. And so, the UK was a market where we had multiple brands. We had moved to the HomeAway brand, as part of what was a goal of building a global new consolidated brand around the world. In general, what we've seen, especially during the pandemic, is that with so much of a domestic use case, the stronger domestic brands have really done well. And so as we moved away from HomeAway in the US, the logic for having HomeAway as a standalone brand in other parts of the world greatly diminished. And so we made the decision to, either emphasize the champion brand Vrbo, which has the most customers, richest heritage, or invest more in the local brands, such as an Abertel in France, or a Stays in Australia, or a Favo Direct in Germany, because they are faring really well during the pandemic and have a lot of loyalty for this domestic use case. And so we're focusing on how we serve this complex family use case, help people get to the best home to enjoy being together. And in doing that, anything that is a distraction from it, namely some of these places where there are multiple brands, and in particular the HomeAway brand, was something we wanted to take the crisis as a moment to clean up.
I've just actually seen a question in the chat from Nancy McAleer, who was actually on this panel before, on the rise of bespoke booking channels. I think this maybe is most relevant to you, Jess, so I'll direct it to you. But what did you do to strengthen your relationship with your supply chain, so owners and property managers, during the COVID pandemic? I'll let you take that.
Yeah, I think the most different approach we took versus some of the other platforms was that we were not unilateral in deciding that there was a single approach that was right for all, traveler use cases and all property managers. And so we essentially published guidance on our expectations for how, managers and owners would work with travelers to affect good outcomes in what was an unprecedented and unanticipated moment. In doing so, I've personally heard from many owners and managers that helped reestablish and build trust with Vrbo as a platform that was, essentially a marketplace in the middle. We don't provide the end service, and we want to trust, providers, like each of the people on this panel and most people in the audience, to do the right thing and make the right decision. And it's complicated, and it's individually, use case specific, traveler specific. Can you put them in another one of your homes? Can you put them in the same home? When do they want to travel again? What's the use case? That you can't just blanket your way through. Everyone gets the same thing. And, that was a very thought through decision, but I think was probably, at the forefront of how we did this. And then similarly, our approach to cleaning policies and the way we've tried to evolve cancellation, has been done with an eye towards what's achievable and what creates minimal execution risk for our partners, in a way that we can better serve them at the thing they rely on us for, which is bringing a lot of new customers to their doorsteps and being an effective marketing channel.
Thank you. That moves us very nicely on to the next question. So, talking about trends that we think will become prevalent over the coming year and beyond. And I've just seen Pierre from Bonjour Consulting has just added a question. So TJ, I think as a prime US brand, Pierre says the industry has seen a work from home trend that has grown. Do you see it as an important trend for your business in 2021? I presume this is more of a US sort of staycation model to analyze.
It's certainly helping to drive some percentage of bookings, but it's only part of the overall equation. The larger trend that we're seeing is just such extremely strong demand for vacation rentals year over year in general. So that could include someone who wants to leave New York and work in a more remote place, or LA, for a period of time, but they're booking more close in. They're booking closer to home. We saw that the distance that guests were traveling is decreased 25% year over year. They're booking closer in to their time of stay. We've seen that lead time decrease by 14% year over year. Longer stays on the order of 20 to 25% all through the fall, year over year, and also larger groups. So we've seen 25% growth in booking 4+ bedroom homes year over year. Those are all the sub trends that we're seeing, but the overall clear trend is that there's stronger guest demand in general for private homes.
And Raj, I mean, how would you follow up on that with Oyo Vocation Homes? It's a prime Europe. What sort of trends? I think you mentioned flexibility being probably the key takeaway from what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think guests looking for flexibility, I think, is a very important trend. To some of the earlier conversations that were happening, we actually did a reach out to customers to try and understand what they were looking for. And it was interesting that normally when you run such surveys, you see, preference for some discounts, some coupons, etc., overpowering, all other options. And for the first time in summer this year, we saw flexible booking policies, free cancellation policies, etc., emerge as dominant requirements of guests. And we have customized our offerings for bookings in 2021 to offer more flexible rebookings, flexible cancellations, free cancellations, etc., because that's what people are looking for. And I think given the impact of the pandemic on the ability of guests to go to their properties and if not able to go there, to get stuck with cancellations and refunds and all of this demand for flexibility, I think will continue for some time. I think I would say there are two other trends that we would expect to be seen going forward. I think one is lots more focus on end-to-end experience. So not just booking experience, but also in-stay experience. I think the ability to deliver a through and through high quality experience as the mainstreaming of this segment happens will become important, and we will see lots more focus over there. And that's what I would say, lots more focus, including by use of technology in a much more aggressive manner is what I think would happen. And I think, obviously, I do think the industry structure will consolidate more.
Fantastic. And Paul and Rami, I know we were talking before about some of the topics we would be discussing on this webinar, and something that you were very keen to discuss with me was the concept of technology. So how, moving forward as a trend, how important will leveraging technology be in terms of minimizing human interaction? How key is that now going to be as this pandemic continues? Rami, do you want to take that?
Sure. So, of course, leveraging technology is very important during this phase, and to be honest with you, it has been always important. And some of the examples that are being used is the self-check-in, the fact that you don't need to pick up the key from anywhere, and then it's keyless. The fact that you have the digital manual to give the guests the instructions. The fact as well that for a lot, for example, of the guests that are in the city, that instead of coming and doing the viewing, you can send them a video of the property itself. So there are a lot of technologies that are to be leveraged, and which we are leveraging now, and that are making the experience of the guest safe and secure, and at the same time providing him with the quality of services he's expecting and the same experience. And I don't know, Paul, if you have anything you want to add on this.
No, other than I think it's important to give guests a choice, and that's what we do. So we have our guest relations team in place to personally meet and greet guests, and that's certainly something that some guests still have a preference for. There is that hands-on personal touch that's very, very important, particularly in the luxury end of the market. But what we do like, as Rami said, is to give people the options of having that seamless self-check-in experience with the lower touch type approach as well, if that's their preference. And that is the preference many times, particularly of corporate travelers, and that they don't necessarily need to be handheld in the same way as a more leisure traveler type guest.
Cool, thank you. Raj, we move on to the fifth topic, actually discussing. I think this is probably the most thing I want to get all your thoughts. Looking at what the impact of coronavirus has actually been of the vacation rental segment as a whole. So, Raj, what have been your major learnings from this crisis, and who do you think could be the winners from it?
I think the major learning from the crisis, and we've still not come out of the crisis. So the major learning till now has been that every cloud has a silver lining. I think this has been an opportunity for the vacation rental space to get Main Street within leisure and hospitality. And that is the opportunity as, there are more and more people who try this segment. And I think that is really the big takeaway as far as I'm concerned. I think delivering on experience is the key to long-term sustainability and success. Because if more guests come in and stay, and the industry or the segment becomes more mainstream, we really have to deliver on an end-to-end experience, right? From search to booking to in-stay to post-stay. And I think that is what will separate, the winners from the also-ran.
Thank you. Paul, how do you think the pandemic might in some ways be favourable to the vacation rental sector? Do you think the reputation of it and this idea of privacy and seclusion is going to benefit the whole sector now, maybe as an alternative to hotels?
I mean, I guess we've kind of touched on it a little bit a couple of times around this idea of giving people the opportunity to try something that maybe they didn't try before. And I think that's very much part of what's happening now, is that, people are looking for something a little bit different. They're willing to do something that maybe they wouldn't have so easily have gone and done before in the past. And I think that will bring with it a degree of stickiness of the concept of the proposition, I guess, of the service that we provide, or the product that we provide, and I don't think that that's going to fall away as things revert back to a normal type environment.
Jeff, what's been the wider impact of the coronavirus on Vrbo and to the wider segment? How maybe well positioned is Vrbo now to cater to this demand for vacation rentals?
I think most of the themes have been discussed. The biggest outcome for Vrbo coming through this is I think we're in a position to where a lot of the foundational work we've done over the past few years in terms of how we describe our proposition, merchandise this incredibly diverse set of destinations and inventory around the world, and really cater to groups and families. And what we are always harping on, the complex family, like 3 generations or a large family trying to get together, has paid off in this moment. And the thing that I see having a lasting impact is really somewhat to Raj's point. People are going to look back on a dark time in their lives when everything was disrupted, and hopefully remember the time they got together with people they miss the most in a way that generates an incredible emotional connection, hopefully with Vrbo, also with the category and our partners. And I think that is the silver lining coming out of this, is that, togetherness and celebrating time with loved ones has become more cherished. And as our chairman often says, where there's life, there's travel, and people have found a way. They may not travel as far, they may not travel to the same places, but they still want to, experience something different, take a break. And I think that's positive, that this category will always be resilient, and that the owners and managers will always band together to get the right outcome for travelers under any circumstances.
And TJ, what do you think might be the wider implications for TurnKey vacation rentals, as well as the wider vacation rental segment, basing on what you've heard?
Sure. I mean, just to tag on to what Jeff was saying, we think that one of the key values of staying in a vacation rental is that type of travel is different than your corporate trip or otherwise. And the purpose that it serves is to help friends and families stay together, and they create memories when they stay together. It could be the last time you saw a grandparent. It could be the first time that you met a new family member. And this has been focused around, pods and your quarantine circles during this time. But we know that staying with friends and families was happening before, and it'll continue to happen in the future. Some of the standards that have changed, hopefully stick, would be contactless technology for your arrival and using digital lock that's secure, for easy access. And then high cleaning standards. Why wouldn't those be great to continue into the future? And And so we think that the companies that will be poised to take advantage of this trend are the ones that have a true technology, have invested in the true technology infrastructure so that they can provide these more consistent hospitality experiences at higher levels for these guests, and scale and deliver, doing it all at lower operating costs so that you provide more value for your partners and for your guests.
I've got time to ask a few questions that are in the chat, and I think this one might be relevant for you, TJ. So this is from Michelle Marquis. So have the managers on this call seen a decrease in hotel style OTA bookings this year? And if so, do they see less business from the likes of booking.com or Expedia? Do you want to come in on that?
I would say it's not been a decrease, but we are being contacted by more traditional hotel operators who I think are understanding that booking through the vacation rental portals and channels is a different game. And you can't just take a hotel style distribution and apply that necessarily to Vrbo. It's a different way to operate. So I'm seeing it more of the other direction, where hotel operators or resort operators are realizing that that there's more to the success path in Vrbo or Airbnb or Homes and Villas by Marriott. So that's more of the trend that we're seeing, is that if you want to take advantage of the full demand spectrum, you need to diversify into those VR channels, and you have to have a different strategy and approach in those channels to really meet the demand there.
And Jeff, I'll give the final word to you, because we've had another question from Sandra in Malta. How do you see Vrbo competing with other very popular booking engines, the likes of Airbnb, booking.com, and the like?
Yeah, I think for us, we expect everyone to make a decision based on the return on their investment, and we think we compete on return with both the quality of our travelers, respectful families that take care of your homes, and the quantity of them, where we can really fill a calendar and provide a great ADR. And then in terms of the investment, it's around how do we, provide good account management, provide good tools, and provide a trusted partnership where we can be an easy platform to work with and continue to earn your business. And so, I'm optimistic that the things we've done this year have extended our ability to deliver on both the numerator and the denominator on that front, but it's unique for everyone. And so we just keep working at it and trying to be the best partner we can.
Thank you, Jeff. And all of our contributors, to Jeff, to Raj, to TJ, to Paul, and to Rami. Apologies if we didn't get time to ask all those questions, but very delighted to see the engagement we've had today. So the big announcement to come from today, apart from the shorties, of course, a bit earlier, and I will repeat that in a bit, I'm delighted to say that we will be back for Rockstrz Series 2 in the new year, bigger and better than ever, covering the most pressing topics and bringing together the best Rockstrz speakers, as we've already done in Series 1. So more details will be confirmed in due course, and please do get in touch with me. I'm at paul@internationalhospitality.media if you would like to contribute to that. As you can see on the screen now, we've also launched a separate series, Trailblazers, on our sister website, Boutique Hotel News, for the boutique hotel sector. That's with my colleague Eloise on screen. And we also have our Urban Living webinar series hosted by my colleague George. There's actually one tomorrow, which is on hotel hybrids and hostels. I believe there's already a huge amount of sign-ups for that, so I'd thoroughly recommend you check that and Eloise's series, and the links to register are in the chat function. So this is a snapshot of what to expect from our Urban Living Light series and the Urban Living Festival that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And we've got some of the fantastic exhibitors, and then our festival sponsors, media partners, and we're really grateful to all of their support. For sponsorship opportunities, please get in touch with my colleague Katie. The details are on the screen now. I'll just repeat the Shorties announcement from a little bit earlier. So we had a promo video for that. The awards are due to take place on Thursday, the 22nd of April, 2021. And the entry period opening date will be announced in due course, along with all of the other details you need. So we really cannot wait for this after our inaugural event early this year. We're very, very excited for that. There is actually a full recording going out tomorrow. So if you did miss the promo video a bit earlier, that will be right there for you. And of course, feel free to contact us via our various channels. So all that's left for me to say is thank you again to all of you for listening and for supporting our first ever webinar series over the last 8 weeks. We've had so much support and we're all very, very grateful for it. Very grateful as well to all of our esteemed speakers today. And we'll see all of you in the new year for the second series of Rockstars. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Paul.